Hi guys and welcome to Life by Design. I'm Matshaka. Today we're joined by Nqobile Nkosi, who took a leap of faith and left her comfortable job in corporate as a banker and pursued a life of purpose. So she's going to tell us exactly how she did it so that you can also be inspired to be able to live your life by design. Hello and welcome to Life by Design, a program that inspires purpose by speaking to people from around the continent who live a life of purpose, who share their journey on how they discovered what they were meant to do with the hope of inspiring you to live your life by design. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective. My name is Amanda Matshaka. You can catch us on Channel 802 on the DSTV audio bouquet. We're also available online. It's www.channelafrica.co.za. We're also available on social media. On Facebook, it's Living Life by Design. On Twitter, it's at Living Life by Design, as well as on Instagram at Living Life by Design. Coming up on Life by Design today, we're joined in studio by Nqobile Nkosi. She is the founder and CEO of Divine Elegance Image and Beauty Consultancy. But she does have a background in banking, yes. So she has qualification in banking, and she made a decision to leave that and pursue a life of purpose, something that she's been passionate about. Not that there wasn't purpose in banking, but perhaps, you caught up a little bit later to say, you know what, this is not what I was meant to do. Welcome to Channel Africa, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored and humbled to be in your studios this morning.
Now, you are the founder of Divine Elegance Image and Beauty Consultancy,
Yes.
But it didn't start there. As I said, that you have a banking background. Is this something that you wanted to do when you were growing up?
No, absolutely not. In fact, I never really had a love for doing business at all. My biggest love really is just interacting with people. I love speaking to people. I love making a difference in people's lives. And at the time, after school and doing, a lot of, small jobs here and there, I eventually landed my dream job in the banking sector. Started off as a bank teller and was quickly moved to the next department because I was passionate about it. Just that interaction with people just keeps me going, and it still does. And in a very short space of time, I was at a managerial level, regional manager, and went into marketing. And all of a sudden, there began to be an inkling and nagging for going into business. But I quickly brushed that aside because that wasn't me at all.
You mentioned that it was your dream job to be in banking.
Yes.
What inspired that growing up as a child? What made you want to get into banking?
To be honest, I think it really was about the fact that I could speak to people. I could see people. I just love seeing people. I love making a difference in people's lives. So for me, sitting behind that counter and helping Gogo get her cash, get her money, and helping the businessman get their money so that they can carry on with their, with their day's work, just makes me happy. And I did it very quickly. I was very fast. I was one of those tellers that did their work very, very fast. And customers would always want to come and be serviced by me because I would push the queue very quickly because I was just fast, and just seeing that smile on their faces just gave me fulfillment. So I think it was really to do
your passion for
with
people,
work
with people,
just working with people. That's what it was about.
Where did that come from? Is it something that has to do with your background? Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and why the love for people.
Yeah. I'm not actually sure why the love for people, because we're actually three in our family in terms of children, and I'm the first child and only daughter. And I have two younger brothers. The one, he's in Botswana, he's got his own family there, and the other one, he lives here in Johannesburg with his own family. We were born in Zimbabwe, so I'm originally from Zimbabwe, and I just it was just the three of us. So we really were almost like loners. So there really wasn't much of a social life and all of that. And
So there
that's
was a
all we
longing
knew.
for interaction
I
with other
think,
people.
yes, absolutely. You know, when you put it like that, I actually think that's where it came from, because it was just this small nucleus of people, and that was all we knew. And I guess that longing then is what then just drove that passion on the inside. And then in 2006, I was already married by then. We moved over to South Africa and I began my life here. And you know, when God has got your life in a certain way, in order, my first job here in a matter of months was in the banking field, one of the big corporates at First National Bank in a managerial level. And that was great because, again, I was able to have that interaction with people and just bring change in their lives.
So your banking career started in Zimbabwe?
It started in Zimbabwe 2001. So that's when I've been in banking.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about your experience in banking in Zimbabwe and in South Africa and get to understand the differences.
Yes.
Stay with us. Welcome back to Life by Design right here on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Today we're talking to Nqobile Nkosi. She is the founder and CEO of Divine Elegance Image and Beauty Consultancy. If you just joined us, she was telling us about her background in banking, and later on we will be talking to a counselor, Ruth, and she will get us to understand exactly what goes through someone's mind when they leave the comfort of their job and pursue something that they are passionate about. So, Nqobile, you started your banking career in Zimbabwe. Where about?
It was at, again, one of the big banks in Zimbabwe, in Bulawayo. It was called Kingdom Financial Holdings. And that's where for 7 whole years, well, in fact, it was about 5 or 6 years, I worked, and I quickly worked my way up through the ranks. And when I left there, I was a regional manager looking after the high net worth customers. That is what they were called, which is your equivalent of your private clients this side. And I left and I came this side.
But informed the decision to come to South Africa with your family?
It was honestly just to pursue, a better life. And at that time, the situation in my country was actually still normal. It was still very, very normal. And just when we left, in fact, I think it was about a year after we left, things just took a downward turn, and it's been, in that way for a while. And we're still hoping and praying that one day things will get better, and, just be what it was and even better.
And then you joined a First National Bank.
Correct.
And how many years did you spend there?
I was with First National Bank for 12 years. And when I joined them, I was immediately made a branch manager. It was for an innovation department. It was a store in Clearwater Mall called I think it was called the One Stop Shop. Where basically we serviced every level of client, from your entry-level customer right up to your private client, and we sold them a suite of products. So they didn't have to go to different departments to get different products. It was all serviced in that place. So I managed a team of 6 consultants, and there were also financial planners as well. And I loved that very much. And that was the first experience in banking for my banking career here in South Africa.
So you were very successful at what you were doing.
Absolutely.
And obviously comfortable.
Yes, very, very comfortable.
What were the highlights of your years in banking?
I think for me, one of the one that actually stands out the most was when I first came here and landing that job, I must say, because FNB is one of the big banks. So for me, I just felt like, wow, it was such an honor to be recognized by such a big brand coming from outside and to be given a managerial position at that. So that was a great thing for me. Another one was when that particular store actually got closed down because it was a prototype. So it really was meant to be a set to see whether we could actually roll it out, but a business decision was made that it wouldn't be rolled out. And because of my work ethic and also the fact that I'd turned the business around, when I joined that branch, it wasn't making any profit at all. And within a year, I brought it to break-even point. So there clearly was something great that that I was doing and with the team that I was working with. So when that store was closed down, one of the senior managers at head office in Johannesburg said to me, "Come, I will look for a job for you. I will find something for you because we don't want to lose you." And they did exactly that. And I then went to head office and I worked in several positions. So she literally created a position for me because she didn't want to lose me. So for me, that again was very, very special. And I'll always hold it dear. And I think those are the two biggest highlights for me in my career. And, just generally, just the trust that everybody seemed to have in me. And I really attribute that possibly to my work ethic and just for the love of people.
So obviously when the switch came, the nudge for you to leave banking, it's not because you were miserable at work. It's not because you were underachieving or anything like that. You were actually at the height of your career.
Absolutely.
So when did the nudge come?
Yeah. So initially, it was about 2008. And I was just coming out of a service in church. I love God with all of my heart. And I'm also in ministry as well. So I really, can vividly remember the day and the place where I was at. And I just felt the Holy Spirit saying to me, "You will start a business and the name will be Divine Elegance." I quickly brushed it off out of my mind because I've never been business inclined. In fact, I did not like business at all. So I left it and I didn't even think about it for a long time until around about 2011, 2012, where I just felt, I've got to do this thing. And I registered my company, and lo and behold, I got the name that I had got into my spirit. And I must say, just prior to that, I just used to, on a voluntary basis, do talks to women, for women, go to church, women's gatherings, and teach them about beauty, teach them about makeup, teach them about personal branding. And I also at one point, because of my love for speaking as well, had the opportunity of speaking to the then presenter of Third Degree from ETV, Deborah Patta. We were actually speaking to executives about personal branding, and I had the pleasure and honor of speaking on the same platform with her. And I think that was then really that I felt like, okay, perhaps I need to do this. And I just thought, in 2012, I thought I've got to skill this passion. I've got to skill it. And who knows, maybe I'm going to use it later on. That's when I went and I started with face-to-face. I did my image consulting course and my makeup artistry course there. And once equipped, I then thought, okay, yeah, let's do this.
But then again, I don't think it's the beauty industry is something that just came into mind when you were about to exit the bank. There must have been an interest way back.
Absolutely.
Did you pick up that from an early age that you actually have a liking into it?
Not even, hey. There's a whole story behind it. And funny enough, this business has now become my ministry. While I was in ministry, because I was in counseling and evangelism, we did a lot of, on the ground visiting of people. And I still remember vividly, there was a time we visited the Baragwanath Hospital. There's a ladies section there. And I saw some women, who were mentally ill because of stress and depression, and they had lost all hope for life. They didn't feel that they deserved to look beautiful or anything like that. And in my continued walk, as a Christian and also just in general, I came across a lot of women that had just lost the love for themselves because they thought, because of the challenges and what life had thrown at them, they didn't feel that they were beautiful enough. They didn't feel that they were confident. And I decided I would make it my life mission to help to bring out their inner beauty. And so that is where also my mantra for my business comes from, helping to bring out your inner beauty, because I want women to understand that you are beautiful on the inside before you're beautiful on the outside. And then you have to balance the two. And so it doesn't really matter what you've gone through in life. You are still beautiful. So I help them get to that level. So that's where it all actually started to come together.
It was a quest to help others.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Nqobile. We continue with our discussion, and we'll be joined by a counselor. Her name is Ruth Krauss, and she'll join us right after this. Welcome back and thank you for joining us. This is Life by Design with me, Amanda Matshaka, right here on Channel Africa, the African Perspective. We are on 802 on DSTV Audio Bouquet or online www.channelafrica.co.za. We're talking to Nqobile Nkosi. She is the founder and CEO of Divine Elegance Image and Beauty Consultancy. She's been sharing her story on how she started in banking and she was already a high achiever, but then, purpose kicked in and she went on to do something different. And on the line right now, we're joined by a counselor. Her name is Ruth Krause. She's trained with Lifeline. Welcome to Channel Africa and thank you for joining us, Ruth.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to join you. It's a privilege.
Now, you've heard Nqobile's story. How common is it for people to just leave the comfort of their jobs and the security that it brings to pursue something that they're passionate about?
I think, in my view, it's a calling, that there is a calling within them. And then I think as that calling grows, it gives them the courage to move on. And I'm not saying it's common in everybody. Some people prefer to sit in their comfort zone, and that's where they're comfortable. Whereas others, there's a calling, there's a restlessness within them to move on and to do other things. From what I've heard the conversation, and Nqobile did her homework first. She didn't do it, without thinking through it and working through it.
Yeah.
But she got a calling, and I think the calling was to help others and to take what she had learned and, give back to society.
And how do people deal with the fear factor, Ruth? I don't think it's just a matter of, well, I've got courage, I'm just going to jump and do it. Obviously, they have to deal with some fear of a loss of income, loss of security and comfort. How do people navigate that?
I think that there is fear, but people decide, it's a decision. Do you live in love or do you live in fear? And I think that within them they decide, I'm going to take the route. Fear is there, and fear, I think, is a good thing to some degree because I think it drives you. Mm-hmm. But if you've got the right attitude, and that's a positive attitude, that I will use the fear to drive me, but I won't use it to stop me doing what I feel is my purpose.
Is it also possible for someone to be so crippled by that fear that they actually just stay in that place where they deem to be comfortable in?
Absolutely. I think some people never move on in life and follow their journey because they are so fearful inside of making a mistake. People are terrified of making a mistake. And I think, what we don't realize is that only through making mistakes do we grow. Adversity helps us to grow. So if you never make mistakes, you're never going to know and you're never going to achieve the heights that you want to. But yes, fear is a huge factor in people not realizing their dreams.
I believe that's a very powerful message that you are sharing there, Ruth, and we hope that we inspire people to actually get up and pursue their life of purpose. And what you're saying is that it is in mistakes that we grow, and so they should get out there and actually face their fears.
Absolutely. That don't be scared of making a mistake, because they're not really mistakes at the end of the day. They're just growing you, and you cannot grow without doing things. And I think, we need to learn to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And, going into something that you don't know how it's going to work out, you're vulnerable. And people don't like to feel vulnerable. We want to be in control. We want to be in control of ourselves, in control of our lives. But in actual fact, we're not in control. God's in control. Mm-hmm. So if you just believe and go along with that and show your vulnerability, you'll get the courage that you need to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Ruth. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah,
good.
Certainly.
So which part of what Ruth has just said do you identify with? How did you have to navigate those fears?
Yeah, so, that security that you keep speaking about, I after I actually made a decision that I wanted to now do this on a full-time basis, I actually, spent like an entire year just talking to God about it, and just wanting to be sure that this was the right move. And also, I needed to calculate, and thank God I've got a very supportive husband as well that I confided in. And, we had to make sure that if I left the job, my job, we would still be financially stable and still be able to live our comfortable lives. So we did not want our lives to regress just because we now just had the one stable income, so to speak. So it was a whole entire year of introspection and just making sure that life would still carry on and life would still be good.
So you'd say it's important to make sure that everything is in place.
Absolutely.
Financially,
Yes.
you're secured
Yes.
before you
Yes.
take that leap of faith.
Oh, yes. That's very, very important, because, that also gave me the confidence of being able to, because a lot of my peers and colleagues at the time would say, but who leaves their job when the economy looks like this? Who does this? And because I had a plan, I had my own made plan, but above all, I had a plan and a conviction about the fact that God had my back. I stood my ground and I was confident, and I wasn't going to, take a step back. I remember even my boss at the time, she said to me, you know what, they called me NQ at the time, and she said, you know what, NQ, if you ever change your mind, or if your business doesn't, go off so well, please just know that you can always come back here. The door is open for you. And that was so special to me. And with all the planning and all of that, December 2017, I then left the job, and in actual fact, the company also then asked me to stay on for them for an extra 6 months on a consulting basis, just to assist them with some project that needed to be done. So doing your homework is very, very important, and just making sure that you are comfortable, and don't jump into things blindly, because then you're going to be frustrated.
So make sure that you have a plan.
You have to have a plan, whatever size plan, but have a plan. I was taught that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I live by that.
We'll talk about your plan and how you executed it to be where you are today.
Great.
Okay, welcome back to Life by Design. We are joined today in studio by Nqobile Nkosi, who is the founder and CEO of Divine Elegance Image and Beauty Consultancy. And on the line we have Councillor Ruth Krause. She is trained with Lifeline. She's telling us about the importance of, taking that leap of faith. But obviously, Ruth, you have to have a proper plan, as Nqobile was saying. Can you tell us how important it is, before we let you go, for people to plan properly before they then, take that leap of faith?
Absolutely. I think you have to do the homework. And the homework could take 6 months, or it could take a year, or it could take a couple of years. But I think, as Nqobile said, it's very important to have a plan and to go over that plan and not be impulsive, because I think impulsivity creates problems down the line, and you haven't thought through things properly. So yes, I think that's very important. And I think through having a plan, that gives you the purpose to move forward. And it also gives you the self-confidence to know, I've done my homework and now I'm ready to move.
And how important is it, lastly, for someone to talk to someone like you, a counselor, to just, make sure that they got everything in place?
I think if one has the opportunity to talk to somebody, and I'm sure that Nqobile spoke to friends or people in the church, just to say these are my plans, and got advice as well. I think it's important to get input from others. But at the end of the day, you have to have the courage and the self-confidence to make your own decision and know that it's right for you. And have a positive attitude.
Have a positive attitude, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ruth, for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
how important is having a positive attitude? Because there are days where it's going to feel like, man, am I on the right track?
Oh, tell me about it. It's lonely. It gets lonely. And you know, like you rightly say, there are days when you actually ask yourself, did I make a right decision? And for me, that support and the positive attitude is very, very important. That's what actually keeps me going a lot of the times. Just being able to bounce off ideas and, just being able to just talk to someone about it and keeping positive. And I think for me, the greatest thing that really keeps me going is that when things are not going the way I want them to go, I always remind myself that this was God's idea. It's got his backing, so he's going to see me through. So to be honest with you, that's what keeps me going. And I think above all, the fact that in everything that I do, I always involve God in terms of just connecting me with people that are going to help my business go to where it needs to go and touch people the way it's supposed to touch people. Because for me, as much as the business at the end of the day is supposed to also be profitable for me, it gives me so much pleasure when I see people's beautiful and happy faces after I've offered my services to them. That gives me so much satisfaction. And that also is what helps me to keep positive, to say, you know what, I'm making a difference in somebody's life. I cannot back off. I cannot back down. I have to keep going. So, yeah.
And I like the fact that you are running a business, you're making people look beautiful, but at the same time, you found something that we call purpose that is actually tied to what your business is about. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how much of an importance that is to you? That is something that you didn't have when you were doing your banking work, and now that you took that leap of faith and started your business, you realize that actually there's a bigger plan for me to be doing this.
Yeah. You know, it's very, very important to me. It's absolutely important because I find that the world does become a very lonely place. And I love anything to do with women, young women, old women, mature women. I just love anything to do with women. And for me, you know, anytime I feel I can add value to a woman's life, just put a smile on their face. I mean, I've been a woman as well. I am a woman as well. And I understand what women go through sometimes. I've also had my very, very, very down lows. And so I understand that, you know, sometimes people just need that support. So it's extremely important for me to play my part. And I always say, you know what, I change the world one woman at a time. I can't do it all by myself. I need a whole lot of other people. There's a whole lot of other people doing wonderful stuff. But if I can do my bit, then I know that I'm living the dream of my business. I'm living the dream. I'm living my purpose. And I believe that's why I love, life by design, what this, all stands for. Because for me, I'm living my life by design. This is how my life was designed.
This is what you were meant to do.
Absolutely. And I don't want to go back to corporate. And I don't ever see myself going back to corporate. I'm in this to win it. I'm in this to just change lives as much as I can. And I'm glad about what we've done so far.
And how would you encourage a person that's still sitting there and wallowing in that fear, which is so real?
Yeah.
How would you encourage them?
You know what? You have to start. First of all, you just need to know you have to start. Don't wait for some huge magical thing to happen. Don't wait for some huge bell to ring. Just start. And start with what you have, whatever it is that you have. I mean, I started my business without a single cent at all. And how I started it was I would actually go and speak, in gatherings. I would volunteer my services and use my little resources that I had. And eventually, people saw the value in it, and they began to pay me, and that's how I actually started getting financial resources. So I just used my intellect. I used that was my capital, and my passion. That was my capital, and I went for it. So just go for it. Just anything that you're passionate about, just go for it. You will make mistakes for sure, but you've got to get up. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. You've got to get up. Look for somebody that's been there, done that, and you carry on. So it's just about believing in yourself and just doing it because you can.
Just do it because
Absolutely.
you can. Thank you so
Yes.
much for joining us, Nqobile. Those
Thank you.
are powerful words, and I hope that they inspire someone out there to get up and start living their lives by design.
Absolutely.
This has been Life by Design right here on Channel Africa, The African Perspective. Let's connect on Facebook. It's Living Life by Design. On Twitter, it's at Living Life by Design, as well as on Instagram, it is at Living Life by Design. From myself, Amanda Matshaka, producers Bradley Chabalala, Yami Ntlenyama, and technical producer Wiseman Manele. Till next time, and remember, you are the architect of your life.